I I told him
To hang back a bit.
yeah, to just chill. Well, last month especially, I was like, yeah, here, just me and Bowen got it. We got it, you know. Um,
That we do.
and so I hadn't heard from him in a while, but except for here and there, like here you got to do this, or here's this, or here's this update about Jimmy Turner or whatever, you know. And we won't go into that because now we are recording. Um, but yeah, there we go. There's Rose.
Okay.
Hey, Rose.
I'll let you do the intro.
Who we got?
Hi. You
Hey,
guys here for time? Oh yes. Hi guys. How's it going, guys?
yes, yeah.
Usually we are upstairs, but the brother guys accidentally double booked us today.
Oh, okay, down here, which, yeah,
Yes.
oh, thank you. Oh,
Cool. I recognize you guys' faces, but I don't think I got to talk to you at all in person.
Film festival.
Yeah, totally. Well, we'll go around and do introductions in a little bit. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you, Rose. We'll we'll get into you in a little bit. This is, my name is Logan. I'm the executive director of Klamath Film. And this is our October member meeting. You don't have to be a member to join us, so you just got to be alive and excited. Yeah, so the first thing I had on here was we had the film festival. That was pretty cool, huh? Yeah. So I printed off this little sheet. It's got all the winners on it. Everybody here was here except for Rose. So they all know who won probably. But there's some pictures of the trophies on there that are really cool. That's why I wanted to include it and pass it all around because the trophies are all, as I'm sure we all know, they are made by the Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild, and they are all we show all the winning films. Well, all the first place winners in each category, we show them those films a month or so ahead of time, and they craft personally each trophy based on the film that won. And so they're all really cool. Rose, you'll be able to see them on our Facebook page if you look.
Isn't today the last? No, October 11th was the last day to view them on demand from the festival.
That is correct. Yep. So missed out. Everybody missed out, except for nobody did. Everybody here was there. Great. Yeah. So it was cool. That was my first film festival, not just running one, but even attending one. I've never even been to a film festival. So cool. Great. Good. I hope it was fun. It was fun for me. It was a slog and there was a lot that goes into it, you know?
It's a fun slog.
I mean, I was gonna say maybe like I know what you mean. It's like not necessarily a slog, but like a marathon.
Yes, certainly that.
And that there
Certainly that.
it's taxing, but it's
It
worth
is,
it.
yes. And there's a lot of work that goes into putting on something like that I had no idea about. And I got to learn. I got to learn, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun. It was great to show off all those movies, and it's great to meet all of the filmmakers. I hope you guys had a chance to talk to some of the filmmakers personally, as well as, get to see them on stage and, do the Q&As and stuff. And that was fun. My favorite part for sure is giving out the trophies and doing the award ceremony and just seeing everybody so elated because those trophies really are a beautiful work of art. Yeah. So that was something that I really loved.
My favorite was Red Wine Drives'.
Yes, absolutely. I think mine was probably breakup season because
It was also a good one.
yes, with the clock on it, and it's there, it's beautiful. um I have some announcements about film work opportunities. We have a feature shooting here, well, in the area in Southern Oregon from December 9th through the 21st. They are looking for a first AC and a local DIT, a digital imaging technician. And so if you are interested in joining that production, you just ask me and I'll give you that contact. What else? They're also looking for a van driver and yeah, I think it's going to
Any
be
PA
mostly
spots?
I think that they have already got their PAs, but if anybody's interested, they can reach out. Because I was talking to, who is this? This was Bailey I was talking to, and they've filled up just about all of their roles, both uh, acting roles and production
Casting crew.
roles. Yes, they filled them all up, but they are happy. They're looking for, understudies, if you will. They wanted to have a waiting list too. So even though, she only mentioned the first AC and the DIT, reach out. Absolutely reach out. Get in there, introduce yourself. Anything can happen. What's that?
What's an AC?
AC, assistant camera. So it'd be like the person who's not the camera operator, but the person that would come through and like clean the lenses or go through and set the focus or, things like that. Switch out lenses, technician kind of. Let's see. So we've got that one. That one's coming up in December. We've got the SOU Digital Cinema Crew Experience Program. SOU is seeking a compelling short film script for their crew experience class in spring of 2025. So if you've got a script that, is 10 to 15 pages long and you think that students could pull off, like let's see, they're looking for a domestic drama, submit it. I've got the email address here. Submit it, and some students, some very talented student filmmakers will.
Don't know if I have the exact beat on the genre representation, but to me that means things like Marriage Story,
Totally.
Manchester by the Sea, The Whale.
Yeah.
Anything like that can be sufficiently dramatic and emotionally wrecking.
And probably something pretty easy too, one or two locations, just a handful of actors, something easy, So that's one. You just let me know if you're interested in that, and I will hand out that information too. We also got a casting call from Pusher Media. Let's see. They are doing a shoot here in the hospital at Sky Lakes in Klamath Falls. I don't know. We don't have a lot of information about that, but I think they are looking for just one more role, and that is I was sort of saving it for Larry if he was going to show up. It's age range of 45 to 59 years old. But I think they are also looking for a waiting list too. So if you are interested in.
Do you know what the kind of project it is?
I don't have any information on what it is. Let's see. Physical requirements, somewhat athletic and able to perform light physical therapy exercises. Doesn't say whether it is dramatic, narrative, documentary, whatever, so but they're looking for actors. So I imagine it's some sort of narrative. And then we also have an independent feature film shooting in the Mount Shasta area, starting on the 22nd of this month. So what's that, Monday?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And so they're looking for a handful of people too still. I guess, yeah, sound, art design or art department, and they are looking for PAs as well. So Mount Shasta area, I guess that's an hour and a half away, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still kind of new to the area. I've only been here for about a year.
It's pretty much at the base of the mountain.
Totally. What we got Jarrett. Good deal. Glad you're here, buddy. And then hi. And then let's see. We've also got, so that was Monday through November 10th. So they're gonna go, what's that, like 19 days, something like that, 20 days. Yeah. So there are still, it is low budget, but there is some pay available, they said. And then finally, this one doesn't have so much to do with film, but I got it in the Filming in Southern Oregon group chat, so I figured I would just throw it in here. The Rogue Valley Symphony is looking for crew members and a stage manager to assist with their concert. Yeah, that's in Ashland or Medford. So it's a bit away, but I just figured I'd bring it up anyway in case anybody knew.
They're casting a bit of a wide net.
Totally, yes.
Not disparagingly.
Yes.
Just
no, totally. Yeah, totally. And if any of you guys knew anybody who
They're casting what?
A wide net.
Oh,
yes, to their potential
To look for different roles
employees.
and the technicians that they need.
Absolutely. Yes. So That's what I have. That is all I have. This,
tend to stick together.
um,
Artists tend to stick together.
yeah. Uh, we got a few minutes before we get started here. Does anybody have anything they want to say about the film festival that was just a couple of weeks ago, or was it fun? Great. Great. That's awesome. And you guys said this was your first time great. I love that y'all, because I saw y'all just about every day. I absolutely love that. I absolutely
The
love
film
that.
that I found most interesting at the festival was Agoraphobic Woman Tells All.
Yes,
I thought that was
absolutely.
great, and I thought just conceptually it was so weird and interesting.
Yes,
that-
totally. I love that one. It is so Sorkin-like in its dialogue and its writing, and I absolutely love that about it. It was just so witty and fun. Um, let's see.
Uh, yep.
That was hilarious.
Summer Confidential. I love it. I absolutely love that one too. What else was hey, what's up, man? How are you? Um, John, I know you're eating. Did you have a favorite standout? No. That's okay. That's okay. They're all amazing. They were all amazing. Yeah. Jared, did you have a favorite from the film fest? Fighting
I will say
Irishman.
probably my top film just out of all of it was One Fighting Irishman, just for
Absolutely.
the sake of it's a documentary and it was just really well made, really well researched, and the presentation of the information just from a functional standpoint, I could nerd out over. Not even
Totally.
mentioning the historical subject area.
Totally. And not even mentioning George Takei,
No.
the legendary.
No, that's the one I was gonna say.
Oh yeah. That's
I was going to say is
Because it's local.
absolutely, yeah.
to me the least high profile or the least significant part of the film for me was George Takei, and I mean that as a compliment.
Totally, yeah. And he is amazing and was amazing in it. So great, yeah. We're getting pretty close to time. Oh, Anthony, did you have a favorite? I know you did. We've already talked about it. Did you have a favorite from the film festival that you wanted to talk about, maybe?
Both of mine were in the documentary set, which was Measure 110 and Undamned. They were fire.
Absolutely.
Camera work and editing and
Hmm.
fellow scripts were well written out.
Yeah, and Undamned, it won first place in its category too. So
Yeah,
you aren't alone in thinking that's one of your favorites,
I
Great.
like both of those.
Good
I'm
deal.
not too much of the murder or cut your throat out guy, so I like more nature related.
Totally. All right. Well, that does it for announcements here. Unless anybody else has got anything they wanted to talk about. Cool. Snowflake Festival. Yeah. So come on in. Why don't you get on camera, man? Or on mic anyway.
So my name's Jared. I own 40 Views Films here in Klamath Falls. So I'm going to be broadcasting the Snowflake Festival this year with Logan's help and some additional help from the film club.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Fantastic. So the Snowflake Festival, that's like yes, December 5th. That's the Christmas parade that comes through, or holiday parade, I guess. Yeah, cool. Very cool. Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm going to be live streaming it.
Oh,
It'll be out
that's
on
awesome.
Facebook.
That's sick for all the people that like disabilities that can't make it.
Absolutely.
Kids.
Is it something the city's sponsoring or what?
No, I went and talked to the Snowflake Festival board, and it was kind of my gift back to the community this year. So
That's awesome.
Cool. Good deal. All right.
Advertising.
Well,
Very smart.
Rose, thank you for being here. One of the things that we like to do first is just go around and do introductions so you can sort of get to know us and who we are, and then you can sort of introduce yourself, and then we'll just have an open conversation about movies and filmmaking and cool stuff and fun stuff. We'll just nerd out for like an hour and a half or something. So I'll start here, and then we'll go around to my right just because it makes sense to me. So be prepared. My name is Logan Baldwin. I am the executive director of Klamath Film. I moved here just over a year ago to Klamath Falls from Tennessee. I moved here with my wife. She graduated law school in Memphis, and she was looking at the job board and was just like, she didn't know what she wanted to do. And there's an insane lack of legal professionals here. Oh, I recognize Claire. Hi, Claire. Um, uh, there's an insane lack of legal professionals here in Oregon. And so we were just like, we're young, we don't have kids. Let's go do something weird. And here we are doing something weird. Here I am doing something weird.
Oregon is known for being a little weird.
A little bit, a little bit.
T-shirt, just keep Oregon weird.
There you go. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. So here I am. I was a product photographer for TJ Maxx and Marshalls for 3 years in Memphis. I have an associate's in video production, and I got to work on a really cool film this this summer with Rose. And I've talked a lot about it, not too much about it though. And we'll probably hear a little bit more about it tonight. So that's me. Thank you guys for coming. Jared, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Jared Hurd. I own 40 Deuce Films here in Klamath. Primarily, I make videos for other businesses, but I also do documentary work and a little bit of narrative work as well.
Cool, 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 cool. And you, one thing that I want to do too is if anybody's got a project that they're working on that they need help with, they can absolutely bring it up and let us know, because that's what we do here is we network and we hook people up who are looking for help with their projects. So aside from the Snowflake Festival, do you have anything going on that you just want to share?
I mean, I've always got projects going on.
Totally.
Getting ready to do podcasts with the Chamber of Commerce. Let's see, I just had an 18-minute documentary premiere 2 weeks ago at the Klamath Lake Long-Term Recovery Group fundraiser. I've got a lot of things. The list goes on and on for things I'm working on at the moment. But
Totally. Yeah. Great. Well, congratulations on that, man. Absolutely. All right. Next up, introductions.
Holly Fleur. We
The
moved here
microphone.
from, like the Portland, Salem area.
Could
but
you
we've
bring the microphone just a little bit
kind
closer?
of
Sorry.
lived all over the place. So like Korea and Pittsburgh and
No way.
kind of everywhere. Yeah. So we're weird too, I think. Yeah.
I don't know why this is very dumb, but the first question that popped into my mind was like, "Oh, which Korea?" But that's
People ask that a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't really go to North Korea. But yeah,
Yes.
I was a teacher, so I'm homeschooling our kids right now, and we love film, and I've done some acting in college and stuff, but mostly we're just here to learn and kind of figure things out. So.
Totally. Well, that's what we're here for. So I'm glad you're here.
I'm Jesse Fleur. We've been married forever. We've been together since high school and we're 40 now. So
That's awesome.
I work in tech, but I have ADHD and a shitload of interests. So I've got a project that I'm like still trying to figure out how to write and how to do anything with, but I've never done anything with film. I've done a fair amount of stuff with video game stuff. I work in tech. I know a fair amount of like programming or like video game development, 3D modeling, that kind of stuff.
Also does a lot of building.
I do a lot of building
Yeah,
stuff.
And he's a
Uh,
lot of art stuff too.
I do all jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. So, but I know nothing about like cameras and how other than point and shoot. I don't. We're just here to learn.
Yeah, well, we can absolutely hook you up with that, and you don't have to buy anything either, because with your Klamath Film membership, absolutely, Jared will tell you about this too. You can come; it's $25 for the year, and you guys know that because you're members. But you can rent our entire catalog of professional film equipment, cameras, lights, action, etc. For just $25 a year. We've got some really cool stuff. Anthony.
Oh, yes.
What's up, man?
Good evening, Rose and Jarrett. My
Hello.
name is Anthony Lee Thornton. I have a film production company here in Klamath Falls, Hands of Service LLC, and my focus is to wrap up production of the film production that I'm working on, which is a feature. It's a Sky Rain storylines, a homeless female who creates a successful clothing line throughout the struggle. And about 30 minutes of the film is focused directly on the struggles of homelessness and what people experience during that. So I can't wait to display that. And I look forward to the post-production because so far everything's been one hell of a journey.
Yeah.
God
Amazing.
bless.
Just keep it.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm John Skedstad. Just been here a number of years now, but just wanting to get some projects going, especially hopefully a cyberpunk film of sorts.
Really?
Yes, yes. That's why he was just saying, yeah, he was looking at me and I'm like, I'll put him to work.
That's
That's what he likes. Yeah.
similar to what I'm dreaming of.
So yeah, I will talk to you later. But no, I mean, I'm just thankful for everybody. I mean, Jarrett was on at an earlier time and appreciate everything he's added. You know, I might have to, once I get my script somewhere, I might have to pass it by him to see if it's worthy.
I love to read everything.
What's
Always
that?
open to reading new material.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, no, just that's pretty much it. Just trying to get stuff done in my personal life, take care of parents' estate, and so and get more time to do these things. So we've just been kind of hampered and looking forward to being done with all that and finally doing something. Of course, I've been looking at motion capture systems, but we'll see what happens there.
Sure.
All I can say is I like the Vicon, but it's expensive.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Bowen Browder. I am the vice board chair for Klamath Film, and I've been a member for about 4 or so-ish years now at this point. Just finished up the festival with Logan. It was a wonderful time, and I also got to hang out with a lot of you during that time, and it was also great. I am, at least in the film world, I am primarily an actor, and I've been acting on and off in various roles, larger and smaller, or at least small and smaller, in the Southern Oregon area for the last few years. I have a little bit of acting experience beforehand, just like, well, I guess not so much acting experience, but performing experience. I've been involved in various kinds of performing arts my entire life. So being on stage or in front of the camera or the lights, or even public speaking is pretty straightforward for me. Between all of that, outside of my day job, I try to get more involved in different film projects. Between all of that, I'm actually now working on writing my own film, ironically documenting my own specific experiences with ADHD. So working on that, it's still in its budding stages at the moment, but I'm almost done with that. And I'm working with some people that I know on it. But outside of that, generally, my biggest passion in the world is storytelling. And as thinking about stories as a vehicle of meaning is very near and dear to me. So it's always fun to be part of these meetings, to join in Klamath Film, talk about the process, and see how everyone approaches stories differently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. All right. Jarrett, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hold on one second here. My video just started playing in the background. Jared Bryant, I live down in Eugene, Oregon, and part of the Klamath film community. I think it's a great community, and friends with Kurt for a long time. And can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I'm just excited about what's to come, working on a new project that I'd like to shoot next year, and we'll see what happens. And hopefully, get into the film festival again so that I can come down to Klamath and enjoy my time there.
Is that one down southeast? The project.
Say again?
I remember you're gonna do something down, it seemed like down in Florida or something, but.
Yeah, there's a film that's working its way through Hollywood. It's just really slow.
Oh, yeah.
Hollywood right now is the slowest thing around in terms of anything,
Yeah.
any type of production. So
I mean, what's
it's a
the subject?
process.
I mean, what's the subject matter of the film? Just the general idea of it.
It's a crime thriller in a sense. It's
Okay.
basically back in the 70s. Airport
Sorry, hang on
luggage
one
theft.
second. We can't hear you now, and that's my fault.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Boy.
Hello. Hello? Yes? No?
Yes.
God.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Now, gotta tell us when it's out though, Jared, so we're not. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's based on a true life story of a Olympic athlete in 1972 who came back from the Olympics and was looking for work after he went and played in the NFL as well. He won a gold medal in the Olympics. Wasn't successful at football because he really couldn't catch. So, but he was really fast. So anyway, he ended up working at the Miami International Airport. And back in the early 70s, security was non-existent. So a lot of the Colombian cartels and so forth used to smuggle drugs on airplanes. And everyone was kind of in cahoots, right? All the way from the pilots on down were fully aware of this. And he was a part of the crew, what they call the ramp rats down below, who transport luggage. It was their job to protect the shipments and to get it through the airport and then, of course, onto other planes flying throughout America. So, and it's basically the demise of that crew that decided that they wanted to control it themselves and get a little greedy.
How many years, just out of curiosity, just how many years did it go for before it got clamped out?
It ran for about 4 years.
Oh,
4 years before Jimmy Carter and then President Reagan cracked down on drug smuggling and security was raised at the airports.
I assume you've seen Cocaine Cowboys?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have.
Very good. All right. Well, that I guess does it. Do we have who do we have joined just now? I can't see. Lori. Hi, Lori. Would you like to introduce yourself? Perfect on time to join us.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lori, Klamath Film member, volunteer, was on the board for a couple of years. Also, I've had a couple short films, stop motion, get into KIF. So I guess filmmaker, creator, and published author, poet. So a little bit of this and that.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Now to the main event. Rose. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's fun to see you. It's been a minute, Logan.
Absolutely. Absolutely it has. Do you ever go to the Cameras and Cocktails?
I do sometimes. I will admit that I am fairly introverted, so I tend to go to the ones that are in Ashland, closer to my house, than the ones that are further out in Medford or such.
Sure, totally. Yeah, I've gone to just a handful of them as well, and I'm also fairly introverted, but I haven't been in a couple of months now just because of all of the festival preparations. Hey, Larry, how are you?
Hey, great.
Good. Yeah, so I was just like, well, I'm going to be going to them more from here on out, weather permitting, because going over that mountain is kind of treacherous. But yeah, Cameras and Cocktails, it's if you guys don't know, it's the same thing as this, but bigger and in Medford/Ashland, and drinks.
Where do they usually meet up? In Ashland?
It's a different place every time, every month. Yeah. So, Larry, I think you've been to one or two, haven't you?
Yeah. A lot of them.
A lot of them. Good. I'm glad you're here. Remind me at the end of this, I've got a possible role for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and a contact number or email address. Yeah. Larry, since you're here just before we got to introduce Rose, would you like to introduce yourself?
hi, I'm Larry.
Well, you want to tell us what you do? And
An actor. I moved up from LA about a year ago, and I'm enjoying my time up here, meeting a lot of people and becoming a member of as many groups as I can and meeting as many people as I can.
Absolutely. I don't remember, did I get to see you at the film festival a couple of weeks ago? Great, good. Did you have a favorite off the top of your head? I know I'm putting you on the spot now. What stands out to you? What's the first one that jumps out?
Give me a minute.
No, you're great. You're just fine. Yeah. Cool. All right.
I'm working all day and I'm building
No,
a
you're
house.
just fine. I know, man. I'm sure that's been a lot of fun.
7 to 7 usually.
Yes, dude. Yes.
In the rain today.
Right.
We're working in the rain. It snowed.
It did snow a little bit too. Yeah. And it's really windy out today too. It's the first good cold day of the season. I'm hearing that it's going to be a particularly bad winter this year. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a caterpillar here that has red or orange and black bands on it. And the width of the band shows how winter will be. And all the locals and the indigenous stuff that wearing was very
Groundhog thing?
Yeah, just like that. And it's going to be early and winter.
Cool. All right. I mean, not that cool, but I mean, that's a cool thing, but about a not so cool thing.
I've never met a caterpillar.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Email you later today.
So, Rose, I met you on the set of a feature film that we shot together in Ashland. You were the production coordinator / accountant. Do you have a more succinct title, or was it like because there are so many different types of producers that I get them mixed up. Were you a producer as well, or how does that work?
I think on a movie like this and of this size, giving someone like me a succinct title is actually very, very hard. It's more like, what didn't I do?
Yeah,
I'm making jokes now. But I have been upgraded to an associate producer, which is lovely. I am now unofficially the post supervisor, still the post accountant, which is common.
Great.
And I'm helping them bring the film to its close. It's very exciting.
Yeah, great. So
what's the name of the film?
Who is doing the post? Is it
Ernie and Emma is the working title.
Is that like people of his that he uses a lot over time, or is it just some other people that are local or something? Are these people that he uses a lot over time?
He's asking about the post process and who is involved in it, and are they friends of his from back in the day, or yeah.
I think it's been a combination. I didn't know Bruce and Ida before this project. I was in New York until 2 years ago. I did grow up in Southern Oregon, but I was living in New York City until 2022. I only fairly recently moved back. But a lot of people on the project were people that have known Bruce for 20 years or more. For example, the composer has known Bruce that long, but we did just hire a music supervisor, which I'm very excited about, because we didn't have someone doing that licensing, and Bruce wants some really specific older tracks, and I really don't want us to mess up that licensing. So I'm very excited that we have a new hire. This is actually someone Bruce didn't know before, but came through the composer Joe, who he's known for many years. So it's a combination, and I think that's pretty consistent. I've seen on indie projects, especially in smaller markets, you're always going to kind of have a combination of what's needed in terms of who are the people that they trust, that they're going to bring in no matter what, and then what are the holes that we need to fill. And I got really lucky because logistics is not always something that's available. A lot of producers, especially on small budget projects, are doing a lot of their own coordinating, or they're handling that themselves. They like to keep the finances in hand themselves. So they're not always comfortable handing it over to someone like me. But I'm a good sell for that, because if you bring me on to be the production coordinator, I can pop in UPM. I can also do all the accounting. And as a result, I'm able to generally garner a higher wage because I'm one person doing 2 to 3 jobs, which I don't recommend always, but if I like, and I don't do it often, but if I like the people that I'm working for, I will do it. And it's always very, very rewarding.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I really loved everybody that we worked with, whether, just Bruce and Ida, or just like literally everybody. We did not have one bad apple maybe a half bad apple, but out of 50 people or whatever, that's great. Everybody was amazing. So yeah, I also really enjoyed my time. I also didn't know Bruce or Ida before this, but I got connected with them through Cameras and Cocktails, which is the Ashland Medford event they do monthly. And Bowen and I were both there actually that when we saw him for the first time.
I was an extra for a day also, by the way. Hi, I'm still here.
Yes, Bowen was there. He was on set at one of the Elks days during the art class scene. So
I still wonder if the shot with me in it made the cut. If it didn't, that's okay. That's just part of being an extra. It's no problem. I'm just curious.
We will.
I don't even know that
I'm
yet.
waiting. I am waiting in eager anticipation for that moment when the movie is out and I can go and see, wait, that's me. That's right.
Go ahead, start with questions.
Yeah. Oh, go right ahead. Go ahead. You got a question? Yeah.
So this is for Rose. You mentioned that you didn't know Bruce, but not just for him, anyone in the industry. What sources of advertisement did you use for yourself to get your resume out?
Oh, that's such a great question.
Yeah, like what type of network did you use?
Literally none. But that I don't recommend. So I've been in the industry for a very, very long time. I'm also 40. I know I look younger. Something that I've made peace with about myself and how I'm wired is that I am better at sort of being asked to do something or accidentally landing in the right place at the right time than I am at self-promotion. I actually also have not even been on social media for most of this calendar year. It doesn't really work for me, which is also why you're not always going to see me at Cameras and Cocktails. I do better at building deeper one-on-one relationships than I do in large group networking. So that's something that has in some ways impacted my career, but negatively, but in other ways impacted it very positively. Definitely, I'm a working actor. I'm in the union. I'm very, very lucky. I have multiple reps who submit me for work, so I don't have to self-promote. I just do the job that I respect of doing a very good job on the audition when it comes. That said, every now and then something will pop up, and if it feels right, I'll send a casual email. And that's exactly what happened in this case. It was literally on the Film Southern Oregon listserv. I sent maybe a 2-sentence email, ended up in an interview 3 days later, was offered the job on the spot. So no resume even at all. I've never actually made a film resume. I have an acting resume, but I don't. I mean, you can go on my IMDb. I have some producing credits, and I have some other credits. Some of my credits will never even make it to IMDb because, as you know, many projects don't ever make it even that far. I have probably 4 or 5 projects in development right now, and gosh, I hope you see them someday. And I'm also not attached because I know how this business works. So I do not self-promote. I'm not good at it, but I still work. So maybe it's not broken.
Well, you're kind of doing it now, so we'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was invited, so if I'm invited, I will share.
that's true. But now you can, self-promote. I'm with you about the introverted kind of deal too, and I'm not great about self-promoting, and that's kind of why I prefer these meetings to, and I guess I'm biased, right? But these meetings to the Cameras and Cocktails because it's a more structured sort of event or whatever. Whereas the Cameras and Cocktails, it's like everybody's there, it's like a party situation. You can go up and talk to anybody. I'm like, oh no. But here, everybody has to talk to me, right? So, and we make time for everybody, right? So it's great.
For a smaller group too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And small room. Yeah.
Rose, would you like to tell us a little bit about your filmmaking background? We know you're an actor. We know you've been here for about 2 years now. What's up? How'd you start? How'd you get involved? What's some fun stuff you've done? Hi.
So I am not a film school person. I didn't go to film school. I am an actor with a BFA in acting and theater training. And I realized pretty quickly that I looked really young when I graduated from college. I still look young. I mean, gosh, sometimes I audition for 4-year-old characters and I just chuckle because I'm probably not going to book it. But I did voiceover for a long time. And that was how I have made a lot of money as an actor. That's how I got into SAG. I actually was a lucky one who got into AFTRA first and was grandfathered into the merger and paid almost nothing to join SAG. But I did voiceover for a long time and didn't get my first on-camera acting job until I was in my mid to late 30s. Not for lack of wanting to do it. I am not someone who's ever had necessarily anything handed to me in the industry. And at the same time, as I knew that it was going to take a while potentially for me to get going as an actor, I started writing and I started producing. because I also recognized that the best way to make sure that I would have jobs was to control the inflow and not just wait on the outflow. Though I very, very much respect the traditional way, and I love my reps, and I love that I get to audition for really interesting projects. I have now 3 scripts in development that I have written that have roles for me in them. But also, if I don't feel like I want to do that, that's also fine. And I have started a nonprofit based in Oregon that is determined to find a way to finance for films, because a lot of the issues that we see in getting anything off the ground is that we are either self-funding or limited by what we can do for free or cheap, or we are controlled by decision makers or financiers who have a lot of really legitimate reasons why they're going to say yes or say no. Constrictions in the market and in Hollywood, like we're seeing right now, should not necessarily get in the way of us being able to create at least independent projects. So that's a brand new nonprofit. We do have our 501c3 status, but it's slow to build a project, build a bigger company with projects like that. So in a couple of years, I'll have more to share on that front. But I didn't go to film school, and I don't know really anything about tech and that side of things, or the technical filmmaking side of it. So what I did in my late 30s was identify a lot of skills I had that translated to essentially project management on a film set. And I was able to then get work managing people, which is sort of hilarious. And I was managing people who I didn't know really, I didn't understand their jobs outside of, like, I'd been on some really big sets. Like, I've been on huge television shows, and I've seen how that goes. Like, I was in a scene once where there was, I think, 30 extras, 4 main, like, lead actors, and me as a very small couple of lines role, like multiple cameras, really intense shots where if one person didn't make their cue, like, we're set back another half an hour because we have to bring everybody back to one. So I was able to take my knowledge from working and my knowledge from managing people in other industries. I had a high level career in the fitness industry as well for a very long time in New York City, and apply that and say, oh, I can do your accounting. I can run payroll for you. I understand that. I can manage multiple employees. I understand, HR. I understand how all of this goes, and I can make a bunch of spreadsheets for you and keep you on budget and on time. And I realized, in fact, that that was something that a lot of people didn't want to do or like to do, or just didn't have the skills to do. And I think ultimately what I've loved the most about not having the film school background is actually that I have a deep respect for the skilled tradespeople in every seat on a film set. And I especially love indies because we're all working together much more closely. There's less of a buffer between things. I might have to go up and actually talk to somebody who's like number 3 in the camera department about something and support them directly. I would never have the opportunity to do that if I were a straight production coordinator or production accountant on a large budget project, because I would be in the office. I'm not even on set. I'm not even close. Maybe I'm signing their paycheck, but they never even meet me. So I've really loved what can be done when you create an environment on set where all of those skilled tradespeople feel seen and respected and cared for in what they do, and they have what they need to get the job done and thrive. Because when everybody is happy and getting paid and getting their per diem and getting their meals on time, they'll probably help you make your day and help you get your shots. So that's a long answer to say that I came in as an actor. I've educated myself as a writer. I actually consider myself more skilled as an actor and writer than I am in any other capacity. And I've just been really lucky with a lot of the other things that I've gotten to do.
I almost find that hard to believe that you're more skilled at the stuff that I've seen you do, because you're amazing. And you said before you did 3 different jobs on one set, and you do that all the time. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up your nonprofit. I wanted to ask you about it because I've seen that in your email signature for 6 months now or whatever. And I've always wanted to ask you about it, never had the perfect opportunity. So yeah, what do you want to talk a little bit more about that? What is it called?
It's called Unseen Films Oregon. And our mission is to, I won't give you my whole mission, I won't read it, is to solve the financing problem for underrepresented filmmakers. And we're also looking to make sure that we're diversifying all the way down the line. Because I've seen in Hollywood very oftentimes you will see diversification of the actors when there is not diversification in the writer's room or behind the camera. So it's just as important to me that we make sure that those diversity initiatives go everywhere. Also understanding that Oregon is not the most diverse state in the country. I've been so lucky to live in Los Angeles and New York City and mostly, sometimes be the only white person in the room. But I have found that there's a lot of other different kinds of underrepresented voices in Oregon. And so the first 3 projects on our slate have racial and ethnic diversity, as well as queer characters and gender diverse characters and older characters. I think also in Hollywood, very often we see stories that focus on people in their teens or 20s. And those are fantastic. But what about the 60-year-old characters? What about the 70-year-old characters? What about even older? I'm a big fan of shows like Grace and Frankie, and I was really excited when Bruce handed me the script for Ernie and Emma, because I love that it centered characters who were over the age of 45 or 50, right? So we're focusing on the diversity and the underrepresented writers and talent that we have here. And one of the projects that I think will probably happen soonest, we're also thinking about like local stories, like what stories are not being told. And a web series that I wrote. So I've been able to donate IP of 2 of my scripts directly to the nonprofit with the hope that some money will come from them in order to create funding to then be able to give grants to writers who are not me as soon as possible, to be able to make micro budget features. We're not another organization trying to make more short films. Short films are fantastic, but short films don't always launch the careers of filmmakers. So generally, we're going to be looking for first-time filmmakers, or maybe someone who's not gotten outside funding before, not done a feature-length project before. But as we're getting organized on that, the first project we're going to do is a web series. It's called Trash! Loosely based on when my mom ran Rogue Disposal and Recycling in the 90s. So it's a really interesting story that centers on an industry we don't see a lot of interesting characters, a lot of older characters. And we will be hiring mostly recent grads from SOU, trying to act as a bridge between the film school and their first professional jobs. And my thought is on this is they have worked on short form content, and a web series is perfect for them to step into slightly more of a narrative, because it will be multiple short films essentially drawn together in a longer narrative. As well, I will probably act in it, so we will not have less experienced actors, and probably will have a slightly more experienced director. I have an awesome non-binary director. They are just incredible and haven't been able to get a job yet because of some discrimination against them. So finding people like that who are experienced, but maybe not in the way that, Hollywood wants them to be, or maybe they don't have the credit they need on their resume yet to get that job. So I'm thinking that if we have experienced actors, a less experienced crew, as Logan knows this, I'm very passionate, especially on smaller projects, about making sure that people get the credit that they need. And I mean literally the IMDb credit that they need in order to get their next job. And there is nothing wrong with organizations that are looking to increase representation by creating opportunities for people to be PAs, but it doesn't help if you're stuck there. And possibly you're not wired to be a good PA. Maybe you're better in an office, and maybe you need to be, assistant to a production coordinator, or you need to be doing the accounting. And if somebody puts you on set in a PA job, you might not look your best. And then you might not get another job on a set. And that's too bad because you just weren't in the right job. And credits are free. So if I can make sure that somebody can be given the credit that they want and they need to then get a job on another set, I have found that to be very, very powerful. So we're looking to create those kinds of opportunities for people. And someday in a dream world, we'll be producing one feature film every 1 or 2 years in Oregon, hopefully for a writer who nobody else is giving financing to.
Totally. That's I absolutely love that. I think that's a very similar thing of what we do here at Klamath Film. You know, we don't focus so specifically on diversity, but we do focus so specifically on local, you know, and even our film festival, it is the only made in Oregon film festival, you know, so we just want to foster that creativity. And, you know, maybe we don't give out money like you're hoping to do, but we do have those connections, and we do have the equipment, you know, to make things happen. And we're also the liaison. We help with things like permits and, you know, location scouting and things like that. So very, very, very similar thing we got going on here. And I love that. I also thought it was interesting that you brought up credits and you being a big advocate of credits, because one thing that surprised me about the project this summer was, and, you know, this could have changed, you know, it's been a couple of months since I've hung out with you guys, but everybody on the crew and in the cast all got their portraits done. And the intention was to put everybody's portrait in the credits. And including me, who was just like a lowly PA, you know what I mean? And I just found that very nice and sweet and quaint, you know. It's like everybody loves each other, and that's great. Was that did that idea come from you, or did you help to foster it? Or that was Ida, wasn't it?
I don't know if it's Ida. I think it might be Bruce.
Yeah.
Yes, that is still planned. Yes, I believe that still will go forward. And I think that has a lot to do with Bruce and Ida and their desire to really have everybody feel like a family in a way. But I actually was able to, it's interesting you bring that up. I was able to get BB a second AD credit, actually.
Fantastic.
She probably would have been hired as a PA. And I think it's fine to say that she was paid the same as a PA, but she did the job of a second AD. And that was a credit that she specifically wanted, because that is a job that she would like to do on other sets. And I was able to make that happen for her. And I'm pretty proud.
I absolutely love that. Yeah. And BB was great and is great. And BB was a judge for the Klamath Independent Film Festival this year too. So she, you know, I've still talked to her every now and then. So that's great. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Rose?
I would like to appreciate you for focusing on diversity. I came up in all diverse neighborhood. Although my skin's white, I'm actually indigenous. So I grew up in an all African American Haitian community down in Florida on the islands, and I've seen what segregation really is, and the opportunities that are not available to diversity. And like you pointed out, queer really face a big wall in front of them. So that's a blessing that you're focusing on those community members.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have seen a lot of really disturbing data, and I am someone who does not identify as cisgender, identify as non-binary. And there is unfortunately a lot of discrimination in terms of gender still in Hollywood. We are making progress slowly in some ways of diversifying projects, and
dominated by white males. Hollywood seems to be dominated by white males.
I try to be polite, but I sometimes do a thing where I will see a really fantastic project, let's say, that has a woman protagonist, and I do a little digging and find out it's just another white man running the show. And it's fine, but it's also not fine, right? Like it's time for there to be more opportunities. And again, I've looked around and I've been grateful for the jobs that I've had, and I'm always going to be grateful for the work that I get. But if I can control a tiny corner and take away the decision makers and control the money part in a tiny corner of the market instead of complaining about how things are, at least then those stories can be told, which I think is the most powerful thing, because you never know. A movie with a tiny budget can often go all the way to Sundance and all the way to distribution. So it's been done. It's happened. It will happen again.
With all the changes that you're seeing in Hollywood, the strikes over the last couple of years, major studios being built in New Mexico and Georgia now as well. You think that the industry is going to shift out of Hollywood and go to other places?
It already has. And actually, one of the biggest reasons why I moved home to Oregon, not the least of which my parents are getting older, and I'm also doing my MBA at SOU right now, is because I realized that Hollywood did not care where I lived, which is not what you would expect as someone. I still audition for New York television shows from my house in Ashland, Oregon. Now, what I have seen in the past years, and I was grateful to be a part of the strike. I went to New York and marched. I'm glad for what was accomplished. I don't think there are enough protections around AI, and I'm really interested to see what happens in the coming years. I'm glad that the contracts went as smoothly this summer as they did. I wasn't sure they were going to go that smoothly. I think we're looking at an interesting couple of years coming up in terms of larger budget projects. Also, we have a lot of streamers who got an inundated amount of tech investment, and we're not getting truthful numbers in terms of what their bottom lines actually are and how much money they're actually making. We definitely have already seen a really extreme constriction in original content from those streamers. Some are still producing. Apple is producing a lot, but if you look at them, they have the money to do it because they are making money from their product lines, right? So I think the thing that I have seen that I have been so excited about was, and again, I read the trades and I pay attention to as much as I can. And I have some friends in Hollywood doing bigger things. I have some contacts and some insight, but what I can track is what my auditions have been, because my reps are good. And, you know, I'm somewhat marketable as an actor, and I have experience. And I have had so many auditions for indie films in the Pacific Northwest in the past 2 years, and almost none for larger projects. And I don't think that's just me experiencing that. In fact, I'm in an acting class every Wednesday on Zoom with my teacher in New York. And most of my other students, we've been in class forever with each other, are still in New York. And my friends in New York City are not having any auditions at all. And I'm having a lot of auditions regionally for indies. So, and again, I didn't necessarily plan that. I decided to move back here before the strike happened and before the major constriction that occurred, but we were already seeing a constriction with the tech money, sort of the impact of that dwindling and some of the reckonings that ended up coming with the strike. So all of that to say, I may be kind of quiet and shy and introverted, but I'm a really smart business person, and I'm literally currently getting my MBA, and I, spend my Monday nights in managerial accounting looking at these financial statements for some of these companies. And the money is just not there. It's there for some of these major IP projects. But if we're waiting for Hollywood to bail us out, like traditional Hollywood, they can't. And it's not their fault. And gosh, there's so much we can do in smaller markets and with indie projects. So it's a wonderful, wonderful time to be collaborating and networking and supporting one another and seeing what we can get done, and like really looking at different business models. Like, for example, I'm seeing if I can get my board of my nonprofit to agree to the model used on the film Sing Sing and their prior film as well, where everyone on set is paid the same. The only people who make more money on the film are just people who work more days and who are on the project longer. To see if that can help us get a project off the ground, which we might not otherwise have been able to do. And even SAG contracts allow us to do that, because if you're on a low enough budget, your actor rates are actually deferred pay anyway. And those actors on those contracts would normally be paid nothing. Instead, they're getting paid the same as the person holding the camera and the person setting the lights on them, which is more fair, even though, yes, that person holding the camera is probably getting paid 50% or less than their normal day rate, right? So there are compromises that need to be made. But I think people are ready to make them. I think they want to do it. I think people want to work. And I think it's better to be in a small market instead of a large one right now. But that's just my opinion.
Possibly a resource for you when it comes to that business model. So a guy on the East Coast named Patrick McGowan, he started a company called Black Box. So instead of videographers having to go out and upload to all the different stock footage sites, you upload to Black Box and they distribute out to everyone. But they were producing a feature film last year where everybody that worked on the film has partial ownership in the film and is therefore going to get royalties long term. And so, kind of in the same vein.
Yeah, that's what they did. That's what they did on Sing Sing as well. I will only be able to do that sometimes with my nonprofit. Like my two projects that I wrote, because I'm donating the IP, the nonprofit will actually own them in their entirety. Because my goal with that is really to try to put money back into the bank account for that. But yes, with other writers who come in, like we have a really incredible like queer coming of age story set in the ballroom dance world. It's a really, really sweet film. And that film, the writer will have the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to do this model. I won't control how they use their money, but there will be potentially a suggestion to say, yes, if you want, we can share ownership and we can do this model, because you're right, it is a really great incentive to everyone involved. If okay, yes, everybody's getting the same day rate and we all have equal ownership of this. So if it does go somewhere, we are all benefiting. And I really don't see a reason why there isn't, like, not everybody is going to want to do that, and that's okay. But some people will want to do that. And, I also have issue with, like, I've spent most of my career above the line on the budget. And as someone who also makes budgets, it's like, why am I above the line and you're below the line? And then I also spend some of my time below the line, right? But what does that even mean? Like, I know what it means. I understand absolutely what it means and why it's there. But I think it's time for us to move past some of those antiquated terms and discriminatory language that's built into our structure, especially if we want to make stuff right now in a contraction. The best way to do that is through partnership and equal. I mean, I can also say, yeah, I worked hard on Ernie and Emma. Logan worked harder than me. I got paid more than Logan. Is that fair? Maybe. I don't know. But you see what I mean? It's like, maybe my job was differently skilled. I had to have a different kind of background, but it would not have pissed me off if Logan and I were paid the same, if that were the model I was walking into, if that were what were needed to make that project happen, even though I ended up above the line with an associate producer credit and Logan's a PA. It doesn't mean I worked harder than him. I worked differently than him. Not everybody's going to agree with me, but that's how I feel.
Sure. Right. Even for, the same amount of time, or go ahead.
Can you elaborate on what above and below the line means?
Yeah. So above the line, generally, you've got your producers, you've got your actors, your writer is up there, your director is up there. The people who have a lot of creative control, often people who get some profit sharing, are up there, and anybody else who works on the film pretty much is below the line. That's even your DP, your director of photography, your cinematographers down there. Like all your PAs, your production coordinator, your unit production manager, your line producer, who sometimes on a low budget film is the same as your UPM. Your line producer will be above the line, but your UPM will be below the line. And go ahead.
UPM. What's a UPM?
Unit production manager. So this person manages your set on a smaller budget project. Sometimes you don't have a UPM. This was the case on Ernie and Emma. So I stepped in sometimes. I was the production coordinator. Production coordinator generally is in an office somewhere. They're never on the set. And the unit production manager is on the set and manages the set. But they manage the set logistically. They don't run the set. Your first AD is actually going to run your set for your director. So that's, I'm getting into details here that you maybe don't need, but honestly, on small projects, you might have 6 total people. Yeah.
It's unanimous. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we're here for. Get into the details.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, it's like when I look at doing a film project, it's like there's a lot of these titles for these different positions. A lot of us don't know what in the F they are. All right, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I think it would
Yeah.
help us to know what they really do. So as we are looking at doing something, then we say, well, I really need this person and this person, you know, in order to kind of say, what's my smallest unit I need to do the job. But sometimes it's nice to know what the other positions are as you might get into them. So, I mean, I really kind of wish, it's like I'm always trying to find like a glossary that really helps understand this stuff, but it seems like it's so elusive. It's annoying anyway.
There are also some really interesting documents that go through hierarchies, because it's also interesting who actually reports to who and why. But again, on a small set, all of this gets thrown out the window. And I would say on a small set, your most important hire is your person to do your sound, because if your sound is bad, your movie is bad. And there is no way around it. You cannot fix it in post. So if you have to pay a lot of money for your sound person, pay a lot of money for your sound person. We will actually forgive what your film looks like faster than we will if we can't hear it. So your sound, what'd you say?
Blair Witch Project, case in point.
Correct. But so your sound person's important, but I mean, I joke a little bit. You need somebody to light the thing. You need somebody to shoot the thing. You need somebody to capture your audio. You need somebody in front of the camera, and you need somebody watching the monitor. You also need a good script. The best advice I'm going to give to you on that is we are not a good judge of our own scripts. And if you don't have enough guardrails, your film might be bad. Not because you're bad, not because you don't know what you're doing. I've seen so many films where it's a person who wrote it themselves, directed it themselves, and edited it themselves. And
Right.
nobody is telling them, you don't need that scene. Nothing happens on that page. Nobody is telling them that. Even worse if they produced it themselves. So this is why collaboration is excellent. And don't be a person who someone is afraid to tell you that we don't need a scene. And I will say, if something doesn't happen on that page, you don't need that page. Take it out. Something has to happen on every single page. And if it's your first script, you probably don't have a good inciting incident. I'm sorry, but you probably don't. And if you don't know what that means, that's essentially the thing that makes the whole movie happen. And something really big should happen within 10 pages. And if that doesn't happen, you are writing exposition. You are giving us backstory, and we are not going to watch your whole movie. So it's your baby. I get it. My first script will probably never get produced.
Instead of a script. Is that about right?
Correct. Even a novel. I'm also writing one of those. And I've got a great inciting incident. On page 1, something happens that sets the whole thing going. So you can't even justify pages and pages of backstory in a novel. So I would say but I'm exaggerating. You don't need very many people. You don't need very much stuff to make a movie. If you're going to pay somebody honestly, get a really good actor, get a professional actor, get someone in SAG if you can. SAG contracts are so easy. Look up sagindy.com, make your movie union. It's not hard. It doesn't even mean you have to pay them, but get a professional, because if you put a camera on a really good actor, they will make a bad script fantastic. Just so good.
Absolutely.
A great editor would be the second thing I would suggest, because I'm really bad
Agreed.
at film.
Interesting.
We didn't even get into post. Almost every indie I have ever worked on has had more than one editor. I will leave you with that.
Interesting. Anthony, what's up?
Rose, I apologize to let you get so far away from my question, but you mentioned further back profit shares on the larger investments for the mainly Hollywood level films. Being that mine was independent feature here, filming in Klamath Falls, I sent the contracts out to the actors recently, and 2 actually reached back out to me due to profit shares were not involved in my contract. And I was wondering what would be the significance of offering them they're concerned about if things go to Netflix, and I'm more of a realistic guy that's like, hey, we don't need to talk about that for my first film. But sorry to say that about myself.
First of all, Netflix isn't paying actors residuals right now, but that's a whole other separate conversation.
So I was just concerned about like, am I treating them properly by being more realistic about my first film?
Yes, you are. So when we're talking about profit sharing or residuals or however we're saying that, if it's a small indie and anyone is asking about profit share, I would say, what are they bringing to the table? What gap are they filling that you can't do on your own? So let's say you have a script that needs a very specific actor and you hire an actor who says, I know this like somewhat kind of famous person and I can get them cast, and they get them cast for you. Then that person, maybe we could talk about some profit sharing. We could talk about a producer credit, but I would always talk about a credit before I would talk about money, because remember, credits are free. So give them a credit before you offer any back end, because really back end or profit sharing in a very small project, they should be investing money in order to get anything back out of it. Or if they're not investing money, they need to be bringing something that could get you money later. And a large actor, a big director, like, you know, someone with some clout, maybe they have a sales agent that they can bring it to. Maybe they can get a pitch for you, but they better bring something to the table, which really puts them in a producerial role more than anything else. That's what's going to justify your back end. Unless you're dealing with somebody really famous. And like, I mean, I'm a skilled working actor. I'm not going to ask you for profit sharing on the back end because nobody knows who I am.
Yeah. And
I can't pull distribution for you. I can't make a deal. But if you had someone like Bruce coming in, yeah, you're probably going to have to make a deal with him.
The dollars, yeah.
He's famous.
So that was,
you know,
above the line questions. What about like a gentleman who offered to be my distributor? He was talking about percentages. Where would that lie? Sorry to ask all these.
That's different. No, that's different because now you're actually talking about your deal on the other end. You're talking about whether or not that person can bring it in. And I would say they could negotiate, depending on the size of this, they could negotiate a percentage of if they are able to get you a distribution deal. But I think that should be contingent upon the deal, not upon their relationship on the project, because it's nice to say they can bring you something, but if you end up self-distributing, if you're financing this yourself, which I'm assuming, you don't really want to give any of your investment to anyone else for any reason unless they can actually back it up. So there could be a contingency later. Sorry?
I said I already over budgeted, so we're tapped out.
Exactly. And so, yes. And again, like, I firmly believe if somebody is self-financing, if they're putting their own money in, they actually don't have to give profit share to anyone. And maybe responsibly, they shouldn't, I will say, because you want to make a second film, right? You don't want to only make one film, you want to make two. So if you're putting your savings into a film, let's hope you can at least break even if it's through self-distribution, get your money back, make another one. If you then get to some festivals, get a relationship with a sales agent, start to have some meetings with distributors, if you start to see a way that you can keep your costs low on your second or third film and actually pull a profit, then we could talk about sharing that profit, right? And I don't mean never give profit sharing. Again, there's a time and a place for it. But if it's your own money going in, I would say protect yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
So with your nonprofit, you're going to be helping filmmakers with the funding side. Are you going to also be helping on the distribution side?
I can't say that I can yet because I don't have that context yet. I have self-distributed, and I know that market, and it is pretty interesting. I actually have a documentary that we were able to keep very, very low budget, and we are in the black except for two very small investments that we want to hope to pay back. But it's a cause film that has been tricky to sell. So I don't have experience making big sales. I do have a film that I was involved with that is on Max, but that deal was unique, and there was no money that exchanged hands in that deal. And I did not make that deal. So I would love to, as a part of the process when we get through, and this is also partly why we're starting with 2 projects that I wrote, because it's like, okay, if we fall flat on our faces on something I wrote, okay, fine. Like, it's fine. I'll get over it. But I would like to not fall flat on our faces when we have a writer, filmmaker that we've brought in and we're really committed to their project. I would like to have some of those relationships so we can hold their hand through film festivals and hopefully make some of those meetings happen, if at the very least give them the confidence to self-distribute if they aren't able to get to a sales agent to make that happen. But that is it's so tricky. And I know I'm being a little bit vague, but the market's just really, really bad right now. It's really, really bad. And I am hoping it's going to change, but I think we just have to protect ourselves and remember, we can make stuff and we can distribute it ourselves, one rental at a time.
Let me ask a question to Jared on this. Now you got your Maxine, right?
Maxie, yes.
You got
Good movie.
you got that onto Netflix or something? How far did
it's not on Netflix. It's on Amazon Prime, it's on
Amazon
Tubi,
Prime, okay.
it's on several services, but I did it self-distribution through Film Hub. And
yeah, that's what I've used. They're great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Film Hub is pretty easy. I mean, you like, Rose was saying, it's important with your post-production because the quality control, it will be issues that you'll run into if you have poor audio, if you have poor picture, if the production value is low. So it's really important at the front end when you're shooting the film to make sure it looks good, absolutely make sure it sounds good, and try to keep it within that 90 to 2 hour range at the most with a feature film. Anything over 2 hours better be damn good in order for them to pick it up. Yeah, so and in terms of it being lucrative, it is not, unfortunately.
I know.
And I think I think a lot of it has to do with picking your theme, right? Is it an action movie? Is it a horror film? Horror films seem to do very well. Comedies do okay. It's picking the genre, right? You got to pick the right genre, and then you move on from there.
And Jared, about your distribution, when I first met you, when Kurt Lidke brought me to here, you had just wrapped up Maxi. I went home and typed it in on Google, and I'm not sure who you used to get out there, but it actually showed you every location to watch it. And I think Amazon Prime's where I grabbed it, but whoever you used did a good job is what I wanted to tell you.
All right. Well, I actually did that.
Yeah. Good job, Jared.
It's what's interesting, and Rose, I think you can attest to this. You wear a lot of hats, right? Late
how
night.
was the road to get it to Amazon Prime? I mean, you say you put it on Film Hub or you went through them. Did they broker that deal, or is it a lot of work that you did to get that deal brokered?
No, they broker that deal.
Okay.
And I mean, the film is watched by Amazon Prime. It's watched by it's on Hoopla, it's on Tubi. They watch it, they review it, then they decide if they want it or not. The biggest frustration I have is that when someone watches your film, you make anywhere from 8 to 12 cents on most of the.
I paid like $4.99,
Right.
man.
So you paid $4.99. I appreciate it. I made about $3 off of that sale. But if you were to watch it with ads, if you're on Tubi and you watch it with ads, it's maybe 12 cents per viewing. So how many views would you need to get that month in order to make it worthwhile? So, and I'm sure Tubi makes a lot more off of those advertisers than 12 cents.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are also other options. Like I've used Kinema, which is another one, which is really great. We use that because we wanted to do screenings and they support in-person screenings and the tech of that. Rentals from there, we actually make slightly more money, but you pay in a membership fee, right? You either pay monthly or annually. The nice thing about Film Hub is you're not paying in, but you're not getting as much out. The other tricky thing about Film Hub is the analytics are delayed. So if you're running a marketing campaign for your film, it's really difficult to tell if your marketing is working because you'll get a delayed quarterly statement that shows where your rentals were. So you're going to have to track back time to be like, okay, what was I doing in October?
Yes.
So it's not perfect, but if your goal is
I invest in October?
Right. Right. Exactly. But there are ways, this is the thing. What I think my main point here is if we don't want to wait for Hollywood to notice us, which man, I wouldn't have a career if that's what I decided. We can make something and we can have it so people can see it. We can't guarantee to make money doing it. I mean, I still freelance and do other things to make money. I'm not going to lie about it. This is not my full-time job. I am very lucky. I have had voiceover campaigns that have paid me 3 to 4 years, 60 grand a year off of 1 hour of work. I am one of those lucky people. I have a vested pension in SAG. I do not currently have money from that right now, right? I am a very small top percent of working people in this industry, and I do not count on this industry to pay me. I work in this industry because I love it and because it matters to me. And if that's the view we have, yes, you can make money. Yes, it can be a job. But as we're focused on collaborating and telling stories, if we're focused on that, we're never going to lose. And don't invest more money than you can afford to, if it's your own money.
And about what you just said about the being noticed in Hollywood, I do have a question based upon that. In Florida, I would own a mechanic shop where I built donks, which are the larger cars on the big rims, and I would build them for most of the rap videos. So my question is, a lot of the rappers that I knew literally came up from just their neighborhoods, rapping on YouTube, and then they would get picked up by record labels. What are the chances, or what are the routes in Hollywood of, say, you get 1 million views on your YouTube video and then picking you up from there, or is it a more judged area?
Oh gosh, there's always the potential to go viral if that's something that you want to do. You can't control it necessarily. I guess to some degree, some people think you can if you can game an algorithm. But I would say like there's always the potential for going viral and getting noticed. I just am not the type of person who is going to put that over the story I want to tell or the quality of what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. So like, to some degree, I will chase a genre. And to give an example, I very carefully donated the IP of these 2 scripts to my nonprofit because I have a comedic web series. Comedic short form content does very well online. And I have a gothic horror feature. And in both cases, I have stories and protagonists that you wouldn't normally see or are underrepresented in those genres. Stories that you haven't seen before. So those genres are on purpose, and there is a strategy that I have there. So, and I'm not necessarily chasing a genre, or I wouldn't maybe take that kind of strategy if I weren't really trying to benefit my nonprofit in the way that I am, right? In the commitment that I have as the founding executive director to really give money away is my goal. I want to make money so we can give it away, and I can't count on foundations, grants, private donors to be a consistent source of income. It is better if I can figure out a way to make some money and have some IP to make that happen. So yes, you can go viral. Yes, you can get noticed. Again, I'm really lucky. I get auditions. I auditioned for a Mission Impossible movie in 2022, right? It could happen any day. I'm just not holding my breath. I'm just not expecting that that's going to be what does it, because gosh, I would go nuts. And I have a lot of really wonderful friends in New York City who just literally wait. Oh, when I'm a series regular, then it's going to be different. Well, will it be? Like, probably not. Maybe.
As they get older.
Knowing your audience as well. I was just doing some research. 46% of Americans watched more user-created content on social media sites in 2022 than they did on streaming services.
Oh, really?
So
That's
which
huge.
audience are you going after, and then tailor your content towards that audience?
I'll go for the swipers.
And some things don't translate. There's actually a really interesting trend now where professional actors in the union are being asked to audition for TikTok content. It's a whole thing right now that I can't quite wrap my brain around. And also as a voiceover actor, I've spent a lot of time auditioning for podcasts, right? Which is sort of like, wow, you have the money to hire me
I
for a
think it's
podcast.
because all the kids are ADHD. I think that's what it is. Their attention, literally, their attention spans are so short. I think almost waiting or watching a whole movie is like reading a book. You know, they just can't do it. You know,
I think unfortunately we can't say that's only kids. I will say though, we have seen series like Broad City, some of these others like short form go from YouTube to FX, Comedy Central, things like that. So there is absolutely some transition from like a YouTube or from a streaming platform, or like I've even seen friends who develop a character on TikTok reels and whatever they're called. I'm not on TikTok. Again, I told you I've been not on social media this entire year, really. So I'm not your social media expert at all. Won't lie, can't pretend. But they would develop a character and that gets them some visibility. They go viral and either that character gets written into something or they get a part that's very similar. Maybe they'll get a manager or an agent from that. I would say going viral is a bit easier if you are wanting to be in front of the camera potentially. But again, or if you are aligning with a story that's really excellent and you are producing it in such a way that it goes viral. I haven't seen anybody in my personal network. I guess that's not true. I've seen some writer actors go viral and then like have movies made. I don't know if anyone saw Dix the musical when it came out. I know those guys. But they came out of the improv scene in New York City, and they went viral on YouTube. But they were writer actors, so they're a part of their product. They're a visible part of their product. I don't know that I've seen like any directors, for example, go viral and then have a career from that. Writers sometimes, but writing is very much more insular. Oftentimes writers get their first job in a writer's room because they know somebody, they have a friend who brings them in. So I'm rambling now, but it can happen. People, I have famous friends that I don't need to name drop who got really lucky and are famous, and mostly they all deserve it.
well, I'm just wondering, you know, like you guys are saying, maybe as times are changing, you know, we're so used to the got to make a feature, make a TV series, you know, all these longer format things. And maybe the future is something a little bit different as far as where the trend is going. It's like, it reminds me of how all the product and stuff followed the baby boomers all those years, right? Well, the baby boomers are kind of on the end of the spectrum now. So what's the next wave, I guess, is really what I'm wondering. And maybe it's like you say, the TikTokers. Jarrett, what's your insight there, buddy?
I'd like to interject just a bit. I have a cousin who is in the music industry. And back in the day, you know, music studios and producers and so forth would take an artist in. The artist was raw and they would groom them, right? Teach them how to perform, how stage presence, work with producers to find their sound, find their voice. All of that occurred prior to you seeing them on tour, right? So a lot of money was invested. And with the feature film industry, the same thing was happening with actors and productions and writers, and it took time and studios were willing to invest. Now it doesn't seem like with the music industry, they're willing to invest. They want you to show up with a finished product. They want you to come in as a producer, writer, director, pretty much everything, and have an audience as well, right? Do you have clicks? Do you have likes? Do you have all of these things, just like the music industry? And now they pay you a lot less in terms of upfront money. Everything is kind of on the back end, like it is with music. When you sign up for Spotify, the artist makes 2 cents each time it plays, or what have you, even less than that on some platforms. So that's the future. That's what I see. And it's a model that makes sense to them, not necessarily to us, but it's a model that makes sense to their bottom line. And Rose, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think long form content is ever going to go away.
No.
I wouldn't touch TV right now. It's just not a good time to be pitching TV. So I wouldn't touch that. But features, there's always a place. And if you can write a short that's a proof of concept for your feature, if you need somebody to help you pay for it, or you need to use that to get the actor you want or the location you want or something like that, that's a good use of time. I have to admit, I'm terrible at writing shorts, so I don't try. I can't seem to wrap my brain around that few amount of pages to tell the stories that I want to tell. I think a really brilliantly crafted short can be really fantastic. I have a friend who did a short. It did the festival circuit. She then raised money through a crowdfunding investor site called WeFunder or WeFunded or something like that. Raised $350,000, made her film on a micro budget, and she went all over the world with it. And she self-financed the short herself. She's also an actor, so she acted in it, and she had some contacts, was able to get a fairly famous co-star in it, which helped. So there are ways to do this without asking for permission. She's since made another film after that. And mostly, I think what I'm inspired by in stories like that is that she's telling the stories she wants to tell, and she's figuring out how to tell them, and she's telling them at a high quality level, even though she's not spending very much money. I also don't think we have to spend like $1 billion on a movie with a superhero and hope it makes 2 billion. Why?
Well, where does that money come from? Like with Deadpool, 100 million. Where does the tenth of a billion come from?
Studios. I mean, you got
yeah, and private investors as well,
people with
and
obscene amount of money.
Yeah,
and also bonds and loans. Some risky financing goes in there too. Nobody talks about that. Not all of that is liquid cash. There's lots of bonding that happens in Hollywood.
And there's
but nobody talks about that liability.
Yeah,
well,
I think there's also a lot of money laundering going on as well.
Oh well, yeah, yeah. I mean, especially when they're like some of these movies lately, they spend a gob of money on them and they bomb, and it's like, I mean, are you guys? It's like they're out of touch with reality or something. But when you were talking about the shorts, I saw there's like that Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, which is just a collection of shorts, but they're all very well done. And I was just like, maybe this is a combination of the TikTok, where you want short attention span, so they won't want something short, but yet it's good. So I'm wondering if
there's a reason they give out an Oscar for short films. It's a whole genre. The reason I say is I just don't discount how difficult it is to write an excellent short. I think very often we minimize shorts in every way, and we don't give them their due in that they need to be a very small, realized, fully functional story, and you just have less real estate to do it in. But if you are good at that, oh, fantastic. I'm not very good at it. But the people who are, you can see, and those stories are so compelling and so wonderful. They have a place. They have a place in festivals. They have a place in distribution. There are people who are distributing short content, and there always will be. So I think that's where, if you are writing, explore shorts, explore features, explore writing a pilot, write in 5 different genres, see what you like. I'm not very good at rom-coms. My first script is a rom-com.Maybe I'll make it someday. It's not as good as my other scripts. Okay, I learned, right? And I have one. If anyone wants to see it, I can write a rom-com. Here's one. You can read it.
Failure is a blessing.
Great. Well, we got about 15 minutes left, so I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to go around and ask any final questions here, because we got a lot of questions usually. And usually, no, it's great. That's exactly the reason. But I find it I need to start earlier, you know. So, questions. Anybody have any questions or final thoughts for Rose?
First, thank you for being here. You know, you wear a lot of hats. I'm a solo operator, so I do everything from client management and sales all the way through the production process and post-production process. So any tips for keeping everything straight when you've got that many things going on?
Oh, I have so many spreadsheets.
That's what I was gonna say. Spreadsheets.
So it's interesting. So I'm not a very tech savvy person. I use Google Drive. I have a spreadsheet for everything. I usually build out a full database for every project end to end. I'm tracking the end at the beginning, right? So now again, I also have a background as an entrepreneur, so I understand like filing a tax return for an LLC and starting that LLC and managing it, right? So I'm going to look at a film project is essentially a business, really short, really fast. And if you're lucky, you make money and you can close it. You're going to open your business and hopefully you're going to be lucky enough to close it at the end, right? So you want to think about the end at the beginning. What are you going to need when you have to file that first tax return? Make sure that you've gotten the W-9 from every vendor that you're doing. If you're concerned about an auditing process, if you do have a higher budget or you're lucky enough to work with Oregon Film and get a rebate, what do you need in terms of tracking your financials? Should you use a payroll company and make sure that they're paying out your fringes? A lot of that, I mean, you've got to start with a good line producer. If you don't like making budgets, learn how to make them in Movie Magic, or hire somebody who does, and then really challenge yourself to stick to it. Every project I have ever been on has come at or under budget. If this movie with Bruce is over budget, it will be because Bruce was really, really nice, not because I didn't do my job, right? Because we're trying to predict what's happening. And if you are paying attention to what's going on, you can stay at or under budget. Again, it gets tricky in your hiring of like, this comes to also with organization is who is your post team? Are they ready to go the minute you're done with production so they're not delaying your turnaround? The longer you are in a project, it's like flipping a house. The longer you're in a project, the longer you delay any potential return. So you don't spend a single dollar until you have all the dollars and you have all the plan and all the people. But I mean, I just write it down, share it with somebody. If you're not good at that, find somebody to do it. Anybody who has a high attention to detail could do what I do. You do not need to know anything about film. Anybody who can do a good spreadsheet and pay attention to things like, I need that person's social security and that person's W-9. I like to balance checkbooks. Great. Especially on terms of keeping track of everything in logistics. Don't hire somebody who likes film or is creative. It's very unusual that I am both an actor and like managerial accounting. These two things do not normally and I also love reading contracts, and I'm really dangerous. I can write a contract you should never. I am not a lawyer. I did not go to law school. I should not write your contract. I am sad about how many times I have written a contract. It's not good. I usually have an actual attorney look it over first before it goes anywhere. But it's more important that you have somebody who has those skills. So, and I would say this for collaboration in general, when you're trying to do a project, look at every person you know and think about what they're good at. Don't think about if they know anything about film. I didn't go to film school. You do not want me running your camera. If you have me pulling focus or lighting your shot, it's not worth your time. I could probably do sound. I understand microphones. I've done a lot of voiceover. But you see what I'm saying? Look at who you know and what they are good at. And a lot of people also will be willing to work for little, or we got a great film school over here. You could get an intern to do some things, learn some things. I don't know. I'm rambling now, but write everything down. Lots of spreadsheets. There are probably really good project management softwares that are fancy that I know nothing about.
I use Notion when you get into the blank slate, but it's like databases that talk to other databases. So I've got a full production and customer relationship.
Cool.
Yeah, and I would say like sometimes that's not even as good as something as simple as Google Drive, because you've got to be quick and dirty and it's got to be shareable and you've got to get it done, and then you're hopefully just going to close it again in the other end. So all of your fanciest and like investing in it's not worth it. Like I wouldn't spend time worrying so much about that as long as you have everything you need.
Well, we have
And I would chime in one more thing in terms of what she was saying, in regard to time, the amount of time it takes for you to complete your project. If you're doing a feature film, I think from start to finish, I mean, meaning from first day of principal photography to the time that it's completed and then it goes to post and then it's ready to be shown, I think you shouldn't go any more longer than 9 months to 18 months at the most. So, if you feel as though it's going to take you 2, 3, 4 years to get your film completed in terms of post-production and all the audio and so forth, I think you're going to miss that window because times change, trends change. Yeah, you may have a film that's perfect for this time period, but you waited 3 years to release it and now it's old and no one cares. Right. So you've got to go in thinking to yourself with a plan. This is going to be released in 9 months to 18 months, ready to go.
That's the whole game is a
Yeah, better to delay.
Tell the future 3 to 5 years in advance.
Yeah.
Better to delay pre-production.
Yes.
It's always better to delay pre-production. Take as long as you need before you have sticks on your first day.
Yes.
Any final thoughts down there or questions?
Yeah, you mentioned micro budget feature. Can you define that with numbers?
I can't define it as well as some of the union contracts can. So you could look up sagindy.com. It's a moving target. It changes all the time. This could be as little as $10,000. I can't remember the cutoff. I want to say it's 250,000, but I feel like maybe that's changed. But yeah, there's a lot of different also lines on that. Low budget, super low budget, micro budget. I mean, there's tons of different levels of different projects. And those matter more if you're working with a union than if you're not. If you're not working with a union, your budget is what your budget is. It's just important for me to define a bit for the people that I'm eventually going to promote my nonprofit to, is like, we're not going to give you $3 million for your movie. We're not going to have that. If that's what you want, go through the pitching process or go for investor financing or find another way to do that. We're really looking at maybe someday we'll do $1 million budget, but we're definitely never going over $1 million with what I'm going to be able to figure out financially. And that's just reality. Some scripts are just too expensive, and I'm never going to tell someone that they should make their film for cheaper than it can be, which will probably mean that there are certain things that won't be possible in terms of projects that I'm bringing in. However, my board has agreed that we will never control full financing. So if someone comes to us and they have partial financing and they only need $250 to fill the gap to make their movie happen, and it's a larger budget film, that's also okay if it really is something that would be exciting enough that the board would agree to it. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself because we haven't decided yet what the determining factors will be for how grants will be given. We're more focused on the educational side of the nonprofit in the short term, essentially making sure that we have a diverse crew available for projects. So we're gonna diversify our crew first on our projects, before we give money out.
Very cool.
Thank you.
There was a question in here, Logan. There was a question about being an accountant. And I think that's actually a really good question. The production accountant or post-production accountant, you mostly are paying bills and keeping the checking account. You pay invoices and you run payroll. You wire money back and forth. It can be very complicated or it can be not complicated at all, depending on the size of the project. You are also responsible for an audit. at the end of each stage of production, depending on where you are. So when Logan and I wrapped on our last days, he was helping ship some gear back places, and I had my face in a spreadsheet trying to figure out where all the money went. And if you do your work along the way, that part's actually not very hard. It's always really fun trying to track down the petty cash. It never balances. Nobody probably stole anything. We're just missing receipts. So you figure out a way to say, hey, that $200, it probably bought gas. That's fine. But you essentially are a bookkeeper with a fancy name. You do not need to be an accountant. You are not a CPA. I have filed taxes. I probably shouldn't have, but I have for some low budget films. It's amazing what TurboTax will give you the power to do. But mostly you are a supercharged bookkeeper in a really short period of time. But your job is really important because you are tracking the money that's been allocated in terms of the budget that was given, and then you're seeing how well it matches at each stage of production. In terms of the bills, you also have to report back to the producers and say, ooh, we're over on camera again. We're always over on camera. And that's fine, but that means we're going to have to go under over here if you want to stay on.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anthony, you had a question?
Am I allowed to have two?
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Yeah, I walked into this with no education from a car crash, so I got to learn everything. All right, so I'm offering the actors and film crew 1099 NES, I believe. Does that sound about right to pay an independent actor?
Oh, you're talking about whether or not it's a non-employee NEC, the 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation. Is that what you mean? Yeah. There's two different types of 1099s. Yes, that's the right one. What's the question?
So the second part of the question was,
well, are you paying them over $600?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'll need a second for the second question. It went somewhere down the hallway.
That's okay. So you really only need to worry about 1099s at the end of the year, like thanks to Jarrett's question as well, is if you pay them over $600, but always check that. It hasn't changed in a long time, but it may at some point. There's a great website called Track 1099.
Okay.
That for a very small fee will actually send the 1099s for you at the end of the year. So for that, I make sure I have a W-9 from anybody who I'm paying a contractor to. And then at the end of paying all of the people, I have a spreadsheet that tracks how much they were paid total. They are not taxed on any reimbursements, per diems, things like that. So it's only wages that they are taxed on. So anything else should not be included in that bucket. You should tell them to invoice you separately for reimbursements than for any type of payroll items. It's just better for your paper trail because then you can separate them into two different lines. And then at the end of the year, you basically take the information from their W-9, you drop it into Track 1099 with their EIN or whatever, and then the amount that they paid, and it gets sent out like an official document.
I found my question. So here it is. I met with the IRS agent who informed me of the 1099 process, who also informed me of something I was shocked about, that film production pre-profit, before the profit happened, that they can only claim $5,000 for the startup. Do you have any experience with the startup write-offs? And after profit, can you write off the rest of startup that is above the 5,000?
It depends on what you mean by your startup. You're usually going to be able to write off your legal and your accounting, your website, like some of those very, very basic things as well. Any payments that you pay to contractors come out of your money, right? So you're not responsible for that money because that money went out to essentially a subcontractor. So your wages generally you're not going to be taxed on those because they went out. I am not a CPA. I am not a tax preparer. What I can say is watch your end of year, and watch your income. It's also, this is an interesting question to me because I have filed taxes for a lot of films and we don't ever owe any money because there's no money, there's no income. So we didn't make any money. So we don't really have to pay any money. So it's just an interesting question to me. There was one time though, I will tell you, and I will tell you this because the producers didn't know this. I was a co-producer on the film, so I wasn't in the room when they were doing the tax return because I was not an owner on the film. So I didn't know this until after the fact. They were given $1 million in the summer, and the film was going to be released at a festival in the summer. This means we had, I think, maybe $350,000 in the bank at the year end when they filed the very first tax return for the LLC of this production company. They did not use accrual accounting. I will come back to that. They did a normal cost tax return, which you can do for a small business. And basically that means that the IRS saw that $350,000 and said, you have income, you have to pay taxes on it. So they had to go back and they had to say, no, these are accounts payable. We're paying the editor, we're paying the sound mixer, we're paying the house that's going to color correct, we're paying, someone to make sure we have the right file sizes to go wherever they need to go. We have this travel for film festivals, we have this. This is not actually money we're keeping. And when they refiled the return with the accrual accounting, they didn't owe anything because there was actually no income, right? It was flat. So I would work with a good CPA because, again, unless you have an investor giving you money to start your business, you shouldn't probably owe anything because you're not making any money. You're paying it out.
Thank you.
John, do you have any final thoughts?
I think you've answered all my questions. I mean, but I'm sure I have more. But I think you've done enough. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. I prepped like a dozen questions here to sort of help, and you murdered more than half of them in the first.
Yeah,
minute,
I mean,
so.
Something tells me I'm going to have you on speed dial at some point in my future, but not yet. But I mean, I think I will be knocking on your door perhaps a little later. Hopefully that'll be okay.
I was gonna say people like you, Rose and Jarrett, should offer like paid dates where we take you guys out and whack the
Right. Yeah. Great.
And you too. You have a lot of wisdom.
I will also say if you can only pay one person on your film, if you pay someone like the two of us who can handle your organization and give you some of this kind of stability, it is worth your money. And people often look past the logistical or the producer, or that person, or a paid producer who you bring on. They often look past that and immediately look at like the cinematographer, for example, and that's great. But you can actually find really skilled people who are younger, who are hungry, who want to do that job. And if your logistics don't work, your movie doesn't work.
That's right. That's right. Larry, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Just thanks for being here and good luck with all your projects.
Yeah, man. Rose, it has been an absolute pleasure seeing you again. Oh, Lori, you still on?
Yep, I'm still here. Thank you so much, Rose. I've really appreciated you sharing your input and having time to do this. I am curious, sort of just more as a fun question. Can you still enjoy films, like watching films, or are you like racking up the numbers, like seeing, or like the logistics side of it that like you can't like enjoy a film?
That's such a funny question. I do see continuity errors. I can't unsee them. I definitely can't get past bad sound or a bad mix. There's a weird thing on streaming where the audio isn't, like, the dialogue isn't loud enough. They mix the music too loud. So I watch with subtitles at home. It's like a trend right now and it drives me bad shit. I hate it. I hate that. I will hope the trend goes away. So the sound balance bugs me, and I have a lot of trouble with script holes and plot holes. But I always appreciate something that's going to draw me in. And I think generally I really enjoy things where the characters are well written and there's a really clear inciting incident. That'll always draw me in. So yes, I can. I'm really picky. I'm also like probably going to talk shit about, like, do we need another white dude's war movie? No, we don't. Probably. Like, I'm going to be really honest about what's just been done and done and done and done and done. So what is different about it? If you are doing that again, why? Right. So yeah, I can. Luckily.
Jared, any final thoughts?
Hey Rose, it was very insightful. It was great to meet you, and I look
Yeah,
forward to
likewise.
talking with you in the future. I guess my biggest note would be is something that Rose touched on earlier, and that is spending more time in pre-production. And when I say pre-production, I mean at the script writing part, right? It's taking the time out to write. I mean, if you write a script over a weekend, right, and you shoot it, it's never going to be as good as if you would have taken 2 to 3 months, wrote the script, shopped it, had people read it, got thoughts, and so forth and so on. It's like building a house. If you don't have a blueprint and you just say, "Hey, I want the bathroom over yonder," that's not quite going to work when it comes to building and developing your story, right? So you need to take the time out and really work on the screenplay first, and then get your ducks in order in terms of who's going to help you. And what she said earlier about the person doesn't necessarily have to have a film school background, but if you know people who are very organized and very disciplined and are willing to put in the time, right, to make it the best film that it could possibly be, those are the people you want to hire. And if you just get that in order first, you'll have a much better experience, and your end product will be something you'll be proud of. That's it.
Great. Rose, it has been an absolute pleasure to be able to see you again. I really, really appreciate you coming but zooming in and doing this with us. I've been with Klamath Film since February or so, and so I've done these meetings a handful of times, and this was a really cool departure in the subject matter, because last month we had Aaron Allen on, and before that we had Kurt Roth on, and so he would talk about cameras and lighting, and before that we had Mike Estes, and he talked about stunts and stuff, and all of those are fun and exciting, and this is something that we don't talk about, at least since I've been a part of the organization. So this was really, really cool to have a nice little
Apparently they don't even teach this in film school. Also, I'm learning, which is hilarious, is that they don't teach logistics in film school, which blows my mind.
There's a lot of things they don't teach you in school, period. Let's just, full school. Yeah.
They're all creatives.
Everybody's going to be an auteur out of film school.
Yes,
okay, great,
yes.
but who's going to make sure everybody gets to set on time and that they have food?
Yes.
Okay, there's a bathroom. Who's thinking about if there's a bathroom?
Right.
Yes, you have to have a plan every day you show up on set, guys. Have it written down,
planning a
have a
wedding.
plan, and everybody knows
Planning
what
a
you're doing.
wedding every day for 30 days. That's what you're doing
Yes,
when you're making
that's what it is.
planning a wedding every day for 30 days.
The piece I did for Running Wild last year, 2-minute narrative piece. It's 2 months of planning for 2 days of shooting for 2 minutes of pitch.
Mhm.
Yep. All righty. Well, that's about our time here. Thank you once again so much, Rose, for hanging out with us and talking to us and stuff. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Nice to meet everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Capturing like so, want the best quality, like someone